he was able to kind of weave around a little bit so that she finds out that he was drinking or almost was drinking, and then did, go to the bar, did hit something on the way on that road. But I thought in that scene in the garage, she ends up believing in everything but him telling her that he actually hit a person. I didn't think he told her that. Maybe I was under the impression
because of the way that he says, "I'll protect our family," and the kind of mustard he puts on that line was him. Sure. Was him telling her, "I'm not going to jail.
Yes,
I'm going to stay with you." Yeah,
for sure. But I also think that like he's recognizing that he's being caught in a lie. Now, people can correct me, and maybe I'll just look at the plot eventually, and if I am mistaken here, but I thought it was, he told her all of the truths except for hitting somebody, and then when she recognizes that he's possibly being investigated for that lie, that's what he means by like, I'm going to protect the family. But I could be misremembering. I don't think it necessarily super matters. I just think that at the end, when she's looking dead in his eyes as he opens the door, it's just kind of like, this is the beginning of the end. And I like that Clint Eastwood still has that wrestling.
That's also interesting because I don't know if that was entirely my read of that either.
Would she show up at the house after he confessed to her? Because I saw some people, and it's funny because there were a bunch of different reads of this, because actually I saw it with a couple friends who all had, we were kind of talking about it after, because I think one person in our group thought that like she was like there to like, to be like, I'm going to arrest you. Or like, this is, this is not going to last. I'm going to take you down. Yeah.
And I was kind of under the impression that if that was the case, there would be like cop cars in the background or something.
Well, no, I think what she's doing is she's saying like, I'm going to start this case. Like, I'm going to put it against you. Like, I think it's like her showing up to the house and going like, I've actually decided, like, because they have that whole scene outside the courtroom where he basically confesses what happened. She knows what happened. And then she knows. And then he goes, your best interest is to not say it because you just became DA. And then the next scene, we have him playing with his family wholeheartedly and happily, and she shows up at his door, and then it cuts to black. I can't read that any other way than like, I've made a decision that isn't beneficial for my career, and I'm actually going to expose you for what you did. I don't see how else she'd be there personally.
See, I guess I personally read it as like a more internal thing happening between the two of them. Okay. I kind of read it like the inverse of the ending of Zodiac. If you remember, like Jake Gyllenhaal looking into the eyes of Arthur Lee Allen and being like, getting his confirmation of like, these two characters are connected briefly by the shared knowledge of a truth that only those two people know, but they can't say out loud because it would ruin both of their lives to do those things. Because it would also ruin her life to do this. She put an innocent man away. She would lose her position, all of these things. And so that's why I thought she doesn't have much. That's why I didn't get the impression that she was being like, I'm going to expose you, because it also exposes her. I think it's more of like a mutually assured destruction thing that results in them being both psychologically tormented, that's why I said it's the inverse of the opposite of Zodiac. Because in Fincher, the end note of like, after all of that sort of obsession of Jake Gyllenhaal pursuing this case and pursuing the senseless evil and basically having to come to terms with the fact that it's never going to face a traditional form of like courtroom justice. They're not going to catch the guy.
Yeah.
But maybe this ordinary guy putting in the work and grinding away, he locates a kind of complex internal closure of like, I looked into his eyes and I knew it was him.
Yeah,
and he knew I knew it was him, and so that to me is more what the moment is it's her being like, we both know the truth, we're both unable to say it without ruining our lives, but we are both going to be living with this psychological torment of this knowledge for the rest of our lives, like through those moments where Holt is like putting the kid away and there's sirens and he thinks they're coming for him, and her going to work and realizing that her coworker knows that she put an innocent man in jail, or at least feels that she did that.
But isn't that the scene we get directly before it? That's where they sit down together and she goes, I know you did it. He goes, yeah, I did it, but you can't do anything about it unless you want to, destroy this whole case that made you DA. And so that to me is already that. And then her making the extra step to go back to him after they've already established that connection is her saying, actually, no, you're done. Like, I have to do something about this because I believe in justice. And I do think Eastwood would do that because he is Clint Eastwood.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm curious if people can sound off and let us know their interpretations. But for me, I think the first scene where they do that and they actually discuss it, where he goes like, "What if a good guy just did it?" And it's him clearly rationalizing, making this decision that he made and being like, "Look, I was a good person stuck in a horrible circumstance, and would it be, would you actually be doing a right by undoing this decision that I've made?" Mm-hmm. Even though, obviously on some level he has done something pretty horrible and something that feels wrong. And for me, the underlining conclusion of it is them being like, it's not going to be easy to live with it. Because in that moment, you can actually feel Holt being like, it's over, it's done, I'm going back to my family, I'm going to hang out with my baby, blah, 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 and he has a very different read. And I thought the guilt-ridden cut to black is her being like, it's not going to be that easy.
For sure.
We are both stuck with this gnawing psychological kind of like moral weight. We're going to be burdened for every waking moment that we are aware of these flaws in our processes, and we can try our best to be like, we're going to disassociate from it because it wasn't my personal fault, or it's a big system, it's out of my control. But it's like, no, your personal internal moral clock was like bent and broken by this process. And for me, that's all it was. I wasn't led to believe that she's going to be like, I'm going to look in.